Stuart Bloor. First of all, let me wish you a very happy new year and of course a fish-filled one as well. This is a new style of video format for 2016. I hope you like it. Before we get on with the fishing itself, yes, I am wearing a Christmas jumper. I'm making the most of the festive season, but after today it gets put away in the cupboard for another 11 months at least. It's my first video of 2016 and the first fish to put in an appearance is a roach. I've had lots of roach activity, although as you can imagine with a size 10 hook and a big worm, not many on the bank, but I just had a take and for some moments I thought I'd hooked into a nice perch. Instead, and I'm not trying to sound disappointed, it was actually a bream, as you can see there, hooked in the side of the mouth. Anyway, if this was a perch that size, it would have been quite a decent fish. But as I say, not disappointed. No such thing as a nuisance fish in my book. Great question there from Kelly. Personally, whenever I'm fishing, I always want to catch the best fish in the venue. And even when the going's tough on the canal during the winter, I would sooner catch one decent perch as opposed to 20 or 30 very small ones. So a lot depends on what your personal approach is. Now if you just want to catch fish, not just perch but anything that's out there, you can't beat maggot. Perhaps a red maggot, a single red maggot on a size 18 hook, that will definitely pick you up perch, but of course you can't necessarily guarantee the size of them. So what I tend to do, I want to avoid the smaller fish, the roach, the bream, etc. Although, as we know, you can't do that totally, but you get the point that I'm making. I'm setting my stall out to catch something bigger, so I'll use a lobworm. Now I may cut that worm in half so it reduces the size of it. It also means that the juices are leaking as well. But what I find is by using that lobworm as opposed to a single maggot, then for me personally, I'm able to catch better quality fish. So maggot or worm, that's what I would go for, depending on whether you want the quality or the quantity. I have a very talented wife and I said, can you do me some music for my angling video? And this is what she came up with. Naya, do you want to come fishing with Grandad?
No.
Say yes.
Yes.
Do you want to come fishing with Grandad?
No.
Say yes.
Yes.
Do you want to come fishing with Grandad?
No.
I'll have to go on my own then, won't I?
No.
Nothing big to show to the camera this afternoon, but at least I've caught my favourite species and my target this week, the perch. I had a couple of things pass through the swim this afternoon. First of all, a boat. Now to those anglers that fish canals in the summer, boats can be considered a nuisance at times, but at this time of the year, when the canal is usually very clear, a boat actually is a blessing in disguise as it colours the water. Secondly, an American mink passed through and there was a moor-hen just to the side of me that got out the canal pretty quickly, and it stood there on the towpath for about 5 minutes staring at the spot at which the American mink had appeared. I came across the term bucket list a few years ago, things to do before you die, and 2012 I gave that some thought as we approached the new year, and the one thing that I wanted to do more than anything else was to fish every single day of the year. So that was my target in 2013. However, just a few few weeks in, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks in, we had such heavy snow, and where I live it's impossible to get the car out, that I was forced to abandon it. But that idea, the bucket list tick, didn't go. So 2014 I again embarked on that mission and I achieved it. I fished, not every day, all day, of course. I have other things that I do, but I was able to fish some part of every single day of the calendar year 2014. I loved it. People said, was it a burden? Was it a hardship? No, it was absolutely great. So I ticked that box. Memory lane, some of the pictures that you've seen on here, or the photo should I say, that you've seen on here, were some of the pictures that I took during that year of being able to fish every single day. Yes, including Christmas Day as well. If I remember correctly, I got the spinning rod out and I went down the canal and I had an hour at first light before the world was awake. I've been on my Welsh Premier League duties, spinning rod in the back of the car. I'm on the way back home. I've got an hour before dark. I'm going to get changed out of these into something else, and then I'm going to hit this little pool and see if I can catch a perch or two. I didn't catch anything at all spinning. It's a particular pond, so that's all it is really, that I do fish in the summer, and the fish are sometimes queuing up to be caught. I get follow-throughs even if I don't get takes, actual fish on the bank. Only small ones, but great fun. I'll tell you what, I did a whole circuit, not even one follow-through. But today, many ways to skin a cat. I've had a sit-down bait session, a spinning session with a small Mepsaglia lure, and today I'm drop shotting. Let's hope my fortunes can turn. First fish of this session, fantastic. That took the lure quite well, didn't it? We're in such a mild spell at the moment. I don't know how long it'll last for, but nature thinks it's spring. I've got a border canary at home. He's been singing like it's March or April. And I've seen dandelion and daisy in flower, which isn't that unusual during the winter months, but a lesser celandine actually was bursting into bloom. That was quite unusual for this time of the year. Normally expect to see them late February, early March, depending on the spell that we're having at that time, of course. However, I'm not complaining, I'm enjoying it. One of the reasons, or the main reason really, why I didn't catch on the spinning session was because it's winter now, and although, as I said, we're in a mild spell and nature is being fooled at the moment, it won't stay like that very long. And of course the water temperature, that's low as well, and so the fish aren't as active. That's where, for me, drop shotting comes into its own. What you're doing is you're fishing one little area at a time. And remember, when you drop shot, you let your lead sink to the bottom, and although you can feel it bounce if you pull into it, that's not the intention. The intention is just gently, as I'm doing now while I talk, let your lure do the action, let your lure do the work, just gently bringing it up and down, dancing away in the canal, in my case today. And then you'll entice a perch that maybe, if the lure passed in front of it, the Mepsaglia, as I normally fish with, passed in front of it, thinking about going, couldn't be bothered, you've lost the moment. But drop shotting, I've seen them when the canal's been very clear, like it is today. They'll come, the fish will, the perch, and they'll stare at the lure, they'll move with it, they'll follow it up and down, and then they'll decide to strike, and that's when you get your fish.
It's a very delicate way of fishing. When I said that the lure dances, I think it's more Jimmy Radcliffe long after tonight is all over, rather than Disco Inferno by the Tramps. In other words, more of a smoocher than an up-tempo track. You get the image, you get the picture, what's happening out there. In fact, as I've already said, it's very clear today, and I can watch my little rubber minnow dancing around in the canal. If you've never done it before, maybe your first session, choose somewhere that is very clear. In fact, even if there aren't fishing, just go somewhere where you can actually get some practice in moving that lure in the water. And then when you know what's happening, when you can see it, when you go somewhere that has a little bit of clarity, or a little bit cloudy should I say, then you know what's happening beneath the surface. Like any type of fishing, that's important. Once your bait's out there, you need to know what's happening, and especially when you've got a moving bait, that's very important.
Another great question. Obviously fishing with maggots or worm, that type of thing on a hook, you inevitably will get deep hooked fish. How do you avoid them? Well, the thing to do is to be totally focused. If you're fishing with a quiver tip, keep your eyes on that rod tip. If you're fishing with a float, keep your eyes on that. And like pike fishing, it's better to strike early rather than late to avoid a deep hooked fish. And one of the things I find at this time of the year, so let's make it specific to now, is that the perch that I've been catching from the canal haven't always given big bites, just slight little taps. In fact, sometimes I thought about a rough out there, a tiny little tap on the rod tip, and when I struck, I've ended up with a £1 or sometimes a £2 perch. So you have to be totally focused to avoid those deep hooked fish. But of course, inevitably, sometimes it will happen. And what you need to do if you're going fishing for perch and other species as well, but we're thinking perch, if you're going for perch, then you definitely need to take a disgorger with you. Learn how to use one as well. Don't just go poking around in the fish's stomach. Learn how to use one. They're very simple, but also an important part of your kit if you're fishing worm or maggot, that sort of bait for perch. Today's forecast is very wet, very windy. I'm having a very short session, but you know what? I'm very happy because I'm next to water. I'm doing some drop shotting on an urban canal in the Black Country. I've only got 30 minutes, but as always, it's better to be fishing for 30 minutes than not fishing at all, isn't it? And that's my philosophy. And that's one of the reasons why I'll get a lot of sessions in during 2016, because I will be making the most of every opportunity. I have also done, not recorded on camcorder, some other spinning and drop shotting sessions as well. Nothing big to report. Don't always film every single minute that I'm there at the riverbank or the canal side or the pool edge or whatever it is. These videos this year are giving an insight into what I get up to, passing on some tips, and hopefully above all encouraging people to get out there on the bank for themselves. I fish this section of canal quite a lot. It's local to me, so when I have just a very short amount of time, I often head here. It's just a case of 30 minutes, 20 minutes sometimes, but at least I've been fishing. I never catch anything big at all, usually get perch when I'm drop shotting or spinning, but unfortunately, and today is one of those occasions, sometimes the canal is a horrible green colour. There's obviously some sort of effluent that's pumped into it, all legal I would imagine. I'm not saying anything underhand going on. It doesn't kill the fish, but what it does do for sure is it kills the fishing. And today, as I've said, is one of those days, unfortunately, but I'm giving it my best shot. It's quite clear once you gaze beyond the green colour, and at least I can see the lure at the bottom. I'm working that away, but no sign of any fish activity
whatsoever. But you know what? I've been fishing, and that's what counts. Now, I'm not condoning graffiti, of course, but every time I see this, it does make me smile. When was the last time you saw somebody spray graffiti all over a wall with correct punctuation?
This is the time of the year when people make New Year's resolutions, but the reality is that a date on a calendar is meaningless. If we really want something to change in our life, then we have to change the way that we do things. In 2014, I came to the end of the year, and as I looked ahead, I don't make New Year's resolutions as such, but what I do is I evaluate the previous year. You look back, but also I look forward to see what I want to change in my life, things that I need to work on, things that need to be put right, things that need to be dealt with, if you like, in your character. It's good to do that. And anyway, one of the things that I came up with as I thought about the year ahead, 2015, the one that's just gone, is all the things that I really loved, but which were no good for me. I decided to cut them out. Pepsi Max, I could drink gallons of the stuff. Ice cream, I was an ice cream monster. I could eat a 4-litre tub of ice cream in one go. Cakes, biscuits, chocolates, crisps, you get the picture. Things that are great to eat but actually are no good for you. So, and this is the important thing, I wanted to change my diet for the year and beyond. I wanted to change it permanently, but it has to come from inside here. A date on a calendar won't make a scrap of difference. Nevertheless, it is a fresh start. It is a point at which you can turn over a new leaf if you need to, or whatever. So I went for January the 1st as a date to change the way that I ate, basically, my diet. So I went through the whole of 2015, and all those things that I mentioned that I absolutely craved for previously, I cut them out totally. It wasn't just the date on the calendar though that helped me change the way that I ate things or my diet, but rather it was something, as I've said, in here. And so as we go into 2016, if there's something you need to change, maybe your character, we can't always go around blaming other people all the while when things go wrong in our life. We have to look inward first of all, and it's good to do that. If there's things that we need to change, it has to happen, it has to start inside here first of all. So 2016, a date on a calendar, that's okay, but that'll never change our lives. We have to look inward and identify things and have the determination and the willpower sometimes, or the self-will, to see it through. I hope you've enjoyed the video. I've certainly enjoyed putting them together. Now, if you have, could I ask two things? First of all, share it. Facebook, Twitter, etc. There are links on YouTube, or you can copy and paste the link, of course, but share the video. If you do, I would really appreciate that. Secondly, I run a small charity that works in Africa, and I monetize all my videos, and all the money that comes in from Google for running ads goes directly into the account of the charity. And I know that ads can be a bit of a nuisance sometimes, and most of us see the countdown at the beginning of the video, so many seconds, and then you can skip the ad. Could I ask that you let the odd one run just occasionally, because when it does, it means that we get a few pennies which build up, and over time, every now and then, Google transfer money into the charity account. So if you could do that, I would really appreciate it. Out and about yourself, tight lines. I'm after Barbel next, so I'll be back next Saturday with episode 2. See you then.